Now you've been, I mean, to my knowledge, you've been one of the leaders in, if you like, distributed information, or at least integrated dictation, for, well, certainly for the past 3 years or so. And I get the feeling that now your time has come, that suddenly everyone's talking about integrated records, etc., converging technologies, and we're going to come on to mobile, etc. But what was the background 3 or 4 years ago when we first met, for example? What was the background to BayScribe at that time?
No, that's a great question. Traditionally, dictation systems have been hardware-based. Several years ago, the thought leaders in our organization decided to re-architect the dictation system for a couple of reasons. Number one, there was this move towards virtualization technologies, and it seemed very evident that the hospitals were going to embrace that technology. Well, virtualization of phone lines doesn't work. So we looked at the market and we said, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and build an entirely software-based dictation platform that'll run on these virtualization technologies. That was not a trivial thing to do. So we went ahead and we did that. It took us a better part of 18 months to re-architect the system entirely, to make it entirely software-based so we can run these virtual technologies, which we do now. The idea of integrated technology and integrated dictation really came from the need of the physicians to be able to work within the system in a seamless way. And we have been doing integrated dictation in PACS for the better part of 3.5, 4 years. We have very sophisticated programmers who work tightly with the hospital and closely with the EHR and the PACS vendors to make it so that the physicians don't even know that there's an application running. We always joked around that we're sort of the best kept secret in dictation because the physicians don't even know they're using BayScribe in most instances. It's that seamless. They're actually just working within their current environment, BayScribe's running in the background, and it's incredibly reliable. And we've had some of our customers actually change EHR vendors, change PACS systems vendors, and the entire time BayScribe's always been running behind the scenes.
So BayScribe is a sort of a virtual solution that is totally transparent in that sense. In
the best case, it's entirely transparent, because what we really prefer to do is just have a system that works. It works reliably. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because obviously in patient care there's no room for downtime. One of the biggest issues with some of our hardware-based competitors is inevitably there's going to be downtime. Hardware fails, systems fail, when the dictation system's down, the physicians are obviously upset and patient care comes to a halt. It's not something that a lot of facilities treat as a tier 1 application until it goes down. When the system's down, everybody's upset.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned earlier, and I know we've talked about before, is the problem of, if you like, the electronic record template, that there's a box for everything. And in the past, when people don't have some sort of dictating facility, where do they put information that Mrs. So-and-so has fallen down and broken her leg, etc., and your thoughts about that? So presumably there has to be a way of getting around that sort of structured approach, I suppose. It's much more free and easy to dictate something.
Yes, and some of the vendors do provide recording mechanisms within the application, but they're a little clunky. I mean, you have to click a button here, launch an application there, submit the audio here. What our aim is to really work closely with the EHR vendors, as we have with the PACS vendors, so that the physician can just grab a speech microphone, slide it into record, say what they want to say, set it down, and walk away. And in an ideal environment, to the degree that the physician can minimize the amount of time that they're taking to document that encounter, that's the best case scenario for the physician. Minimize the time, make it as easy as possible.
Okay, now if I'm a physician, am I able to use my mobile phone as a dictating device, or is there some sort of microphone I have to use, or where's the flexibility in terms of hardware for me as a doctor?
That's a great question. One of the other things that we really started to gear our development efforts around was the idea of mobilizing the clinician. Traditionally, either the telephone was the mechanism for dictation, or the little handheld devices, the little digital recorders. And the issue with the digital recorders is physicians carry them around all day long. They're totally not able to be integrated into the electronic medical system, medical record system. Yeah. It might take them 6 hours or 8 hours before they ever synchronize it to the PC, which creates all kinds of workflow issues and turnaround time issues in terms of patient care. So we've developed applications for the BlackBerry, for the iPhone and iPod Touch, and also for Windows Mobile. And we have integrated information that we can feed down to the device that's specific to the physician, a patient list, a work type list, so that they're not having to dictate all those elements. And then, of course, a wireless upload for real-time delivery of that information back to the system.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very important, because one of the problems is just how much hardware you have to carry around or implement, etc. And the less, the better.
Absolutely.
Less is more, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, less is more, and in some instances, the physicians are already carrying around an iPhone or an iPod Touch, or they're carrying around a Windows mobile device. It's just another application, and 2 of those 3 applications we provide for free, and we intend to offer them all for free at some point.
Okay, I mean, one of the things that that we've seen is that there is a relatively small number of hospitals in the US that have, if you like, an electronic health record. Is that going to cause you a problem in the future? I mean, can you only work with hospitals that have something electronic, or where's your market at BayScribe then?
Yeah, no, we can work with hospitals in a traditional dictation and transcription application, which we have. We dictation, speech recognition, transcription, HL7 document delivery. We have all those elements in the system. Everything is contained within the one application. In some instances, we require very.
The key things that's coming across in our discussions is that BayScribe has unique aspects that are based on its technology. I think that's worth covering in a few seconds, Steve.
Sure. Well, the most unique aspect of BayScribe from a technology perspective is that it's entirely software-based. Traditional systems always have required hardware at the point of voice capture, meaning analog phone lines tied to a server. And the problems with that, well, they're vast. There's limitations in terms of the number of concurrent users you can have. Obviously, if you don't have enough open ports, you can't have enough doctors dictating at one time or people listening at one time. There's issues in terms of disaster recovery and business continuity planning. It's not easy to replicate that entire very expensive rack of hardware in a separate location or in 2 separate locations. So traditionally, they don't. Hospitals just don't have an entire backup system in another location. With BayScribe, we architected everything from ground zero to be software-based. We did that primarily so that we could run on the virtualization technology that the hospitals are certainly adopting at a very rapid pace, as evidenced by the folks that are attending the show that are virtualization platforms. Virtualization adoption is actually far greater than physician adoption of EHR. So,
fair enough.
The CIOs.
We're going on to the conversation, talking about some of the sexy buzzwords that seem to be in this industry here in the US. And I mean, meaningful use has come up lots of times, and I've yet to get any definition of what meaningful use is. Perhaps as you can add, but also you've got some ideas of your own, I think, Steve.
Oh, meaningful use, and it's kind of like the new Web 2.0 in healthcare, right? I mean, nobody knew what Web 2.0 was when it first started. It was LinkedIn and Twitter, and we're actually going to be using Twitter in our application here soon, so that physicians can opt in to get messages about when they have their reports are finished, or when they have documents that they need to sign, so that the healthcare administration doesn't have to chase these folks down and coerce them into signing their reports in a timely manner. And the compliance officers will love that. But in terms of meaningful use, one of the traditional issues with dictation transcription was the finished report lived outside of the record, right? In order to comply with meaningful use, the entire patient encounter needs to be documented within the framework of